And welcome to the Nebraska Department of Education Positive Behavior Intervention and Support 10-Minute Tidbit. Today's 10-Minute Tidbit topic is the Social Emotional Learning Behavior Connection, the SEL Behavior Connection. My name is Heather Robbins, and I'll be your host throughout the 10-Minute Tidbit series. Our purpose with these 10-minute tidbits is to provide Nebraska K-12 school teams with assistance in installation, initial implementation, and full implementation of PBIS practices on their campuses. We hope that these brief video vignettes support you in your implementation efforts. Today's topic is the SEL Behavior Connection. We hope that by the end of our short time together, you're able to describe the connection between social emotional learning and behavior, and that you consider how you are addressing the social emotional behavioral learning needs of the students on your campus within your multi-tiered system of support framework. What is social emotional learning? This definition comes from the Collaborative for Social Emotional Learning, also known as CASEL, which was established in 1994. SEL is the process through which we acquire the skills to develop healthy identities, manage our emotions, achieve our goals, show empathy for others, establish and maintain relationships, and make responsible decisions. SEL is the process through which we acquire these skills, and it occurs in the classrooms, in our schools, with our families and caregivers, and in our communities. What is behavior? Behavior is anything we say or do. Behaviors are external actions that are manifestations of our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences. In order to address the whole child, we must address the social, emotional, and behavioral competencies needed for success in life. Let's take a deeper dive. With social emotional learning, our goal is to foster and teach the skills that are necessary to manage our emotions, demonstrate compassion, set goals, form relationships, and make responsible decisions. This equips us to have the skills to follow the behavioral guidelines. And it also equips us with the skills needed to navigate our daily lives. With behavior, our goal is to create a positive school environment in which students can achieve behaviorally important outcomes. This allows them to follow the behavioral guidelines, which in turn enhances their academic engaged time and their learning potential. With behavior, we're looking to create a common language and a common approach to behavior that's focused on instruction, intervention, and support. For social emotional behavioral learning, what do they have in common? Well, both use a team-driven process to create their multi-tiered system of support. Both promote positive, caring interactions between all. Both create welcoming and safe school climates. Both focus heavily on prevention. In both, we model and explicitly teach and acknowledge the social emotional behavioral learning competencies to students. With both, we want to include student, family, and community voices. With both, we want to be data informed and we want to problem solve. Social emotional behavioral learning. Here are some social emotional approaches and outcomes from CASEL. When we engage in explicit skill instruction, when we focus on teacher instructional practices, when we integrate with academic curriculum areas, when we look at our organizational and cultural and climate strategies, that can result in short-term outcomes such as skill acquisition, improved attitudes, and enhanced learning environments, which in turn lead to positive social behavior, fewer conduct problems, less emotional distress, and improved academic performance. Social emotional behavioral learning. In other words, we need the social emotional competencies to demonstrate the behavioral competencies. These are complementary, and we want to align and connect our systems that support students. Social emotional behavioral learning. We must have self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship skills along with responsible decision-making in order to demonstrate the behavioral competencies. The social emotional behavioral learning connection is not new. The first PBIS study, which was then called Effective Behavior Support or EBS, combined EBS with second step social skills curriculum. The study is called The Effects of a Universal Staff and Student Intervention on Indicators of Discipline and School Safety, and it was published in 2001. On the screen, you see a chart of social behavioral competence from Sprague and Walker. This chart was published in their 2004 book, Safe and Healthy Schools, and will be published again in the revised edition in 2021. You can see that we need social and behavioral competence. We need adaptive social and behavioral competence in order to have positive outcomes with our teachers. We need to have adaptive social behavioral competence in order to have positive outcomes with our peers. If we don't have these adaptive social and behavioral competencies, that may result in some negative outcomes with our teachers or some negative outcomes with our peers. Social, emotional, behavioral learning is intertwined and goes together. This is an early iteration of the positive behavior intervention and support pyramid or triangle. And I just put this here to have you note that at the universal level for 100% of students, what we do, which was what this pyramid is about, is we teach school-wide social skills to 100% of the students. Social emotional behavioral learning has always been a part of positive behavior intervention and support. We must teach school-wide to 100% of our students the social and behavioral skills needed. Then we layer on supports, and that may include increased social skills teaching. It may include intensive social skills teaching, but we must teach 100% the core social skill instruction before we intervene. Otherwise, we are intervening with no core in place. So we provide social skill instruction to 100% of the students on our campus. We address the social, emotional, and behavioral learning needs of all students. This is an early intervention map at the various tiers. And you'll notice this is also from the Sprague and Walker book, Safe and Healthy Schools in 2004. You'll notice that at each tier, social skills was always addressed, beginning with the core universally for all at 100%, and then layering on supports as our data informed us that some students or a few students may require layers of more intensive supports and instruction. We begin with social skill instruction and behavioral instruction at the core, social, emotional, behavioral learning. We must address the social, emotional, behavioral learning needs of all our students in order to support the healthy development of our youth. So we're able to manage our emotions, handle conflicts, show empathy, and demonstrate the behavioral skills required for the learning environment. Here are a few to-dos for you to consider. Determine how you will share the SEL behavior connection with your staff members and stakeholders. Social, emotional, behavioral learning are inexorably intertwined. Social, emotional, behavioral learning have always been together. It is not that we do SEL and we do PBIS. It is that we address the social, emotional, behavioral learning needs of students through our tiered system of support. Discuss how you're currently addressing the social, emotional, behavioral learning needs for the youth in your multi-tiered system of support, and describe how you apply your problem-solving process to social, emotional, behavioral learning on your campus. We hope that in our short time together, you're able to describe the link between social, emotional learning and behavior, social, emotional, behavioral learning, and that you've considered how you're addressing the social, emotional, behavioral learning needs of students within your multi-tiered system of support framework. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next 10-minute tidbit.